Welcome back, Keyforgers. I hope you are well. This is the second video in our Winds of Exchange deck opening series. This is the Unchained deck that I got, and the only reason we're doing this rather than another Winds of Exchange deck is because it has House Equidon in it, and it is the only deck that did out of the 6 I received. As you can see, you've got a slightly different Archon background there. It's very monochrome, very black and white. Kind of reminds me of the evil twin back from Dark Tidings. You'll see there we have a House Equidon token creature there. If I bring the bottom card out, that's the actual Archon card. And then if I flip over, we're starting out with House Equidon. And this is the token creature Strange Shell. 1 power, 4 armor. Strange Shell cannot fight or reap. Action, put Strange Shell into your hand. And then we get on to actual House Equidon, and this is Sandhopper. It's an artifact. Action, return a friendly creature to its owner's hand. If you do, you may play a non-Equidon creature from your hand. Nifflepaw is an upgrade. You get an amp when you play it. This creature gains after Reap. Destroy this creature and attach Nifflepaw to another creature. A second Nifflepaw. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce this first name. I'll just call it the Swapper. 1 power, 5 armor. After fight, swap control of this creature and the creature it fights. Both creatures must survive the fight. Mollusk Caller, 4 power, 4 armor. After Reap, for the remainder of the turn, each friendly Strange Shell gets +3 power and loses all abilities. Now if you remember, our Strange Shell was our token creature, which would make it a 4/4, which can fight and reap then. Arbitrage is an artifact. Your keys cost +1 amber. During your draw card step, refill your hand to 1 additional card. This is where we start to see a bit of that trade-off that House Equidon are renowned for. Generous Offer is an action. Play, destroy a friendly creature. If you do, steal 2 amber. Again, great example. General Zaora, I have no idea. 4 power with Skirmish. Play. For each forge key your opponent has, make a token creature. A second General. Forced Retirement is an action. Play, destroy a creature. If you do, its controller gains 1 amber. Auction Off is an action. You get an amp when you play it. Play, purge an artifact. Its controller gains 1 amber. And here we have a Maverick. It is Perilous Wild. It's an action. You get an amp when you play it. Play, destroy each elusive creature. And that was our first and only for a while House Equidon. Moving on to Mars. Red Planet Raygun is an upgrade. You get an amp when you play it. This creature gains after Reap. Choose a creature, deal 1 damage to that creature for each Mars creature in play. Incubation Chamber is an artifact. You get an amp when you play it. Omni ability. Reveal a Mars creature from your hand. If you do, archive it. Crystal Hive is an artifact. Action. For the remainder of the turn, gain 1 after a creature reaps. We have the Iron Captain, 4 power, 1 armor, and you get an amber when you play it. I believe that's an enhanced amber. And when you play it, each friendly Ionix creature captures 2 amber. Airlock is an artifact. Action, discard a non-Mars card from your hand. If you do, draw a card. Replay Pod is an artifact. Each friendly Mars creature gains destroyed. Place this creature face down under Replay Pod. Action, put each card under Replay Pod into your hand. Purge Replay Pod. Now, to me, if you have a Mars token creature, I can foresee a possibility, if you've got a lot of token generation, to probably have most of your deck in your hand at one point during a game. Big Magnet is an action. You get an amp when you play it. Play, choose a friendly creature, take control of each upgrade in play and move it to that creature. That's disgusting. I can see why that's a rare. This one I'm just going to call the No Drone. 3 power, 1 armor. Play, archive a card. You may purge an archived card. If you do, stun a creature. Zizix the Many, 3 power. After fight or after reap, you may reveal a creature from your hand. If you do, archive it and give Zizix the Many 3+1 power counters. Yixel Dominator, 9 power, 1 armor with taunt, and it enters play stunned. John Smith, 2 power with elusive. After fight, after reap, ready a non-agent Mars creature. A second John Smith. And finally we're on to Untamed. Starting out with Wild Spirit, it's an upgrade. You get an amber when you play it. This creature gains after reap, capture 1 amber. Wild Bounty is an action. It put 2 amber enhancements in the deck. Play, the next time you play a card this turn, resolve each of its bonus icons an additional time. We have another Maverick here. It's Pterodactyl, 12 power. Enters play stunned, only deals 4 damage when fighting. But before fight, deal 4 damage to each neighbour of the creature Pterodactyl fights. So that is from Saurion. Panpaka Jagger, 3 power with Skirmish. Creatures to the left of Panpaka Jagger in the battle line gain Skirmish. Taliga, 3 power. After your opponent plays a creature, gain 1 amber. Fuzzy Gruen, 5 power. You get 2 amber when you play it, but when you play it, your opponent also gains 1 amber. World Tree is an artifact. Action. Return a creature from your discard pile to the top of your deck. Vigor is an action. You get an amber when you play it. Play. Heal up to 3 damage from a creature. If you healed 3 damage, gain 1 amber. Stampede is an action. You get an amber when you play it. If you use 3 or more creatures this turn, steal 2 amber. Cooperative Hunting is an action. Play. For each friendly creature, deal 1 damage to a creature. You may choose a different creature each time. And I believe that is the last 3 cards of this deck. Yes, 3 Cooperative Hunting. So there's the first Unchained deck. We only got 2 Mavericks. I've seen some decks with 6, some decks with anomalies and legacies. Absolutely insane. This one, just the 2. Let's take a little bit of a closer look. Slightly different start to this deck review because I want to talk about the token creature. The Strange Shell, 1 power, 4 armor, cannot fight or reap, but it's got that action of put Strange Shell into your hand. Now, one of the good things about token creatures and this ability for a token creature is 1, whenever you make a token creature, no matter what deck you're playing, you can always look at what card that token creature is. So the token creature comes into play, it comes in face down, and it's a copy of your Strange Shell. You, if it's your token creature as a player, can look at that card at any time, so you'll know what that is. Having the action of put Strange Shell into your hand means that you can have a board of token creatures and actually not worry if one of your key cards is in play, because you can always use the action to put it into your hand rather than having to wait for it to die, go in the discard pile, retrieving it some other way, or waiting for it to cycle round again. Now, I heard that Unchained decks were slightly unbalanced, in quotation marks there, that you can't see. This one seems okay, but there's not much token generation. We have the General Zaora, as I'm going to say it, is the only token generation in the deck. We have 2 of them, 4 power with Skirmish, but when you play it, for each forge key your opponent has, you make a token creature. So, beginning of the game, if your opponent hasn't forged a key, it's very unlikely you're going to get a token creature in play unless your opponent plays something that forces you to make a token creature. The most you're ever going to get is 2, because your opponent will have forged either 1 or 2 or no keys, so it'll be 1 token creature, 2 token creatures, or can't be 3. If your opponent forges 3 keys, you've already lost the game. But this Mollusk Caller, for the remainder of the turn after you reap, each friendly Strange Shell gets +3 power and loses all abilities. So if you do have a board full of Strange Shells that can't fight or reap, and you have the Mollusk Caller in play, reap with it, it becomes a 4/4, and then you can fight, reap, do whatever you want, but you can't use the action on the card because it loses all abilities. So you won't be able to put it into your hand, but you can fight and reap with them. So I just wanted to tackle that before we get into the deck review, because that is the only token generation and interaction within this deck. Let's get to the main review. The basic breakdown was 13 printed amber. 2 of those amber did come from enhancements. Our token creature was, of course, the Strange Shell, which we've just talked about. And there were 14 creatures, 11 actions, 7 artifacts, and 4 upgrades. And as we just talked about, there were only 2 cards that dealt with token generation. If we start with Amber Control, it's sketchy. In Equidon, we had a generous offer. Destroy a friendly creature. If you do, steal 2 amber. It's a very good action, and if you've got a deck that generates a lot of token creatures, this can be really beneficial. We do have, like I said, 14 creatures in the deck, probably a little bit below the average Keyforge deck. But stealing 2 amber, pretty powerful. I can foresee decks which have token creatures with destroyed abilities, this would be even more powerful. In Mars we had the Iron Captain. Each friendly Ionix creature captures 2 amber. That includes themselves. Now I've just done a quick scan for the deck. That is the only Ionix creature in the deck, so it's only going to capture on itself. In Untamed we had Wild Spirit, the returning upgrade. This creature gains after Reap, capture 1 amber. And then we had Stampede. If you use 3 or more creatures this turn, steal 2 amber. In Untamed, I believe we have about 4 creatures, so it is possible. In decks which have Untamed token creatures and token generation, Stampede is a lot more viable to go off, unless you can activate it whilst playing a different house. So Control, there's no increased key costs, there's no You Shall Not Forge, no scaling Amber Control, so it's a bit lacking. And when this deck was played, it did tend to die horribly due to the lack of Amber Control that it had. In Expected Amber, anything that was steel counts, but we did have the Crystal Hive in Mars. Action for the remainder of the turn, gain 1 after a creature reaps. We do have quite a good number of Mars creatures in this deck, so if you can get a Mars battle line established, this works quite well. Again, just imagine that with a token Mars creature. 2 John Smith, 2 power elusive, after fight, after reap, ready a non-agent Mars creature. So you can ready all the other Mars creatures in the deck apart from its other John Smith, because they are the only agents in the deck. We had Taliga, 3 power, after your opponent plays a creature, gain 1 amber. Very good first turn card, but again, such a powerful passive ability, it usually gets taken out quite quickly. We had the Wild Bounty, put 2 of those amber enhancements in the deck, and the next time you play a card this turn, resolve each of its bonus icons an additional time. It will just be an amber for this deck, because that's all we've got. We don't have any enhancements. Vigor was the last action, heal up to 3 damage from a creature. If you heal 3 damage, gain 1. We have some creatures that are a little bit beefy, but it's unlikely this is going to be pulled off. With Artifact Control, we have a nice card in House Equidon, Auction Off. Amber when you play it, it's an action. When you play it, you purge an artifact. Straight, boom, purged. And its controller gains 1. So that's that trade-off part of House Equidon. You can purge your own artifacts. Our artifacts are okay. In fact, some of them are really insane. But there might be 1 or 2 you might want to purge off to speed up your deck and maybe put you on check for a turn. It's a very versatile card. I like it. Creature Control. There was quite a bit in this deck. We had the known drone, or no drone, sorry, 3 power, 1 armor. When you play, you archive a card, then you may purge an archived card. If you do, stun a creature. We had the Red Planet Ray Gun. Upgrade, creature gains after reap, choose a creature, deal 1 damage to that creature for each Mars creature in play. You cannot split that damage, it's to that creature. Then House Equidon, we had 2 of those Nifflepaw upgrades. The creature gains after reap, destroy this creature and attach Nifflepaw to another creature. If you have a deck full of good destroyed effects, say you've got a good destroyed effect on your token creatures and you can generate a lot of them, you would put it on your creatures, because then you could bounce it. So you'd reap, you'd gain the amber, you'd gain anything from that reap effect, then you could do the niffle paw to move it. What you can do is place it on your opponent's creature that has a good reap ability. Yes, they'll put it off once, but then they will get destroyed. And then your opponent can choose to put it on any creature. So they could put it on one of your creatures. Very versatile card. I do like it. Forced Retirement. Destroy a creature. If you do, its controller gains 1 amber. Do it on yours with a good destroyed effect. Fantastic. And you gain an amber. Do it on your opponents. You're destroying one of the creatures, but they're getting an amber for it. And then we had one of the Maverick cards, which is Perilous Wild. I believe it's an Untamed card. And it's play, destroy each elusive creature. Now we do have some elusive creatures in here, mainly in our Mars house. So do be careful if you are going to play this, but it does look pretty cool in those new Equidon colours. We had the Swapper. After fight, swap control of this creature and the creature it fights. Both creatures must survive the fight. Now because it's got 5 armor and only 1 power, it's probably always going to have 5 armor and 1 power unless it's boosted up by something else. So when you do exchange, it's going to get quite messy. This is where those cards that we've seen in previous decks and some in this deck that we'll see in a second, where you can put a card on the bottom of its owner's deck and then there's a good ability for you. That's when you would use this. In Untamed, we had the 3 cooperative hunting. For each friendly creature, deal 1 damage to a creature. And we can choose to split that, and I've added that on this card this print round. The Panpacker Jagger, 3 power skirmish, and then if you put it on the right hand side of your battle line, so all the creatures to the left then get skirmish. That's pretty cool, especially if you're going to turn those strange shells into 4/4s with skirmish. And then finally we had the Pterodactyl, the Maverick from Saurion. 12 power, enters play stunned, 4 damage when it fights only, rather than 12, but it does 4 damage splash before the fight actually happens. Again, no direct board wipe, but a lot of board control in the deck. Other cards in the deck, and one of them that when I saw it I was like, are you kidding me? Big Magnet. Play, choose a friendly creature, take control of each upgrade in play, and move it to that creature. That is absolutely nuts. I don't know if Hayden Oswin is in Star Alliance in this set. I wouldn't think so. But if a Legacy Hayden Oswin pops up and you've got Big Magnet in your Mars house as well, that could be... There are so many possibilities. I would assume they would have taken Hayden Oswin out of Star Alliance because of that. Zizix the Many we've seen before. After fight, after reap, reveal a creature from your hand. If you do, you can archive it and give it 3+1 power counters. The Dominator, 9 power, 1 armor, taunt and enters play stunned. And the Fuzzy Gruen as well, we've seen before. World Tree, we've seen before. An artifact, action, return a creature from your discard pile to the top of your deck, so you've got to draw into it. Very good with that Fuzzy Gruen there. And then other cards in Mars, the Incubation Chamber. Hit one of those enhanced Amber Pips with the Omni ability of reveal a Mars card from your hand if you do archive it. That is very, very good Omni ability there, and ties in very well with our replay pod. Now, like I said, this could be absolutely insane. Each friendly Mars creature gets destroyed. Place this creature face down under replay pod. In a deck which has a Mars token creature, like I said, if you've got good token generation, have the majority of your deck under this card at one point and then purge it and put it all into your hand. I don't think Key Abduction is in this set. It might be. I haven't really looked at too many spoilers, but that is one way to absolutely pull that one off, or at least have a couple of really, really big turns. We had the Airlock. Action, discard a non-Mars card from your hand if you do draw a card. Works quite well with actually the Incubation Chamber. Just cycle until you get those Mars cards, dump them all in your archives, have a big Mars turn. If it gets taken out, they're on the replay pod. And then we come to Equidon. Arbitrage. Artifact. Your keys cost +1, so our keys are going to cost 7. But during our draw card step, we refill our hand to 1 additional card. So there's that scale, there's that exchange there. Then we had the Sandhopper. Return a friendly creature to its owner's hand. If you do, you may play a non-Equidon creature from your hand. So if we think about the Swapper, return a friendly creature to its owner's hand. So if we've stolen one of our opponent's creatures, we can put it back in their hand and we can play a non-Equidon creature from our hand. That's a straight house cheat on an Equidon turn. And I'm sure there are many other possible shenanigans that can happen with House Equidon and things like that. But I do like the look of House Equidon. I'm really excited to see more of the cards and see more of the interactions that they will have. Just to give you a bit of background on this deck, it was played a couple of times. I think it's about 4 or 5 times during a casual night, and it lost each game. It just completely got tanked. So these Unchained decks, as they said when they announced them, and especially at KeyForge Celebration keynote, they said some of these Unchained decks are really good. They're absolutely amazing. And then they said that some of them were absolutely trash. Now I think this one's not too bad. I think there's got to be worse ones out there, but like I said, the token generation, not good. I don't know what the algorithm does for normal Winds of Exchange decks with token generation, with a token included. So do you automatically get a token generation card when you have a token in your deck? I don't know. Are there going to be Unchained decks without tokens in them? We'll have to wait and see. All that remains for me to say is good luck, have fun, keep forging.